Hi, I'm Alfira and some of my friends Muthia, Refky, Gilang, and Juludin. This time we will be presenting on reading. Reading section. Reading section is test your ability to understand 700 words passage similar to college textbook, and there is format of reading section. For the short format, if you read 3 passage, you have 16 minutes. And for the long format, if you read 5 passage, you have 100 minutes or 1 hour 14 minutes. And what about the question? There is 12 to 14 question in each passage. And there is question cover various skills such as main idea, details, vocabulary, invariant purpose, and summarizing. And notes of reading section. It can help you remember key points, which is make it easier to answer your question. And you are allowed to take notes while reading, but notes are not graded. Part of reading, make sure you answer all the questions before you moving forward, and use the next and back button to move between questions within the same part. Prompt. What is prompt? A prompt refers to the reading passage provided, followed by a set of comprehension questions. These prompts are designed to assess your ability to understand, analyze, and interpret academic texts similar to those found in a college textbooks. As you can see, there is length, glossary, number of prompt, questions, scoring, and strategy of prompt.
Problems for the reading section. The problems represent the types of questions that are most frequently tested on the TOEFL. Direction will appear with the questions. If you already recognize the type of problem in the question presented, you will save time to answer the whole question. To answer the reading problems, you must use a reading strategy. Here are some problems that are usually found in the reading test along with examples and answers. Problem 1. True-False. A true-false problem asks you to identify the true statement. You need to choose from 4 sentences. Problem 2. Vocabulary. This problem asks you to choose a general synonym. Choose from 4 words or phrases. Problem 3. Terms. A terms problem asks you to explain a word that is specific to the reading passage. You need to choose from 4 definitions. Problem 4. Inference. This problem asks you to draw a conclusion based on information in the passage. Choose from 4 possibilities. Problem 5. Reference. This problem asks you to identify a word or phrase in the passage that refers to another word or phrase. Choose from 4 words or phrases in the passage. Problem 6. Purpose. This problem asks you to understand why the author organizes a passage or explains a concept in a specific way. Choose from 4 reasons. Problem 7. Paraphrase. This problem asks you to choose the best restatement. You need to choose from 4 statements. Problem 8. Detail. A detailed problem asks you to answer a question about a specific point in the passage. Choose from 4 possible answers.
Problem 9. Cause. A cause problem asks you to explain why something in the passage occurred. According to paragraph 7, food webs are inefficient because A. Consumers in developed nations prefer animal protein. B. Politicians are not paying attention to the issues. C. There are not enough acres to grow crops efficiently. D. Too much of the corn and soybean harvests are exported. Paragraph 7 is marked with an arrow. The answer is A. Consumers in developed nations prefer animal protein. The reason is that in the second sentence of the 7th paragraph, today approximately half of the cultivated acreage in the United States and Canada is planted for animal consumption. Beef and dairy cattle, hogs, chickens, and turkeys. And the fourth sentence of the paragraph, in addition, some lands cleared of rainforests in Central and South America were converted to pasture to produce beef for export to restaurants, stores, and fast food outlets in developed nations. From this sentence, we could say that A is the right answer. Problem 10. Opinion. An opinion problem asks you to recognize the author's point of view. Which of the following statements most accurately reflects the author's opinion about food issues? A. Too much grain is being exported to provide food for developed nations. B. More forested land needs to be cleared for food production in developing nations. C. Food choices in developed nations are very costly in terms of the environment. D. More animal protein is needed in the diets of people in developing nations. The reason why the answer is C is because from the sixth paragraph in the last sentence, the author stated that you can see that an omnivorous diet such as that of an average North American and European is quite expensive in terms of biomass and energy. Problem 11. Insert. An insert problem asks you to locate a place in the passage to insert a sentence. Look at the four squares that show where the following sentence could be inserted in the passage. A tertiary consumer eats primary and secondary consumers and is referred to as the top carnivore in the food chain. Where could the sentence best be added? The answer is B, because on the second paragraph we could see that primary consumers feed on producers. Because producers are always plants, the primary consumer is called an herbivore or plant eaters. A carnivore is a secondary consumer and primarily eats meats. A consumer that feeds on both producers, plants, and consumers, meat, is called an omnivore. This sentence made much more sense if you put it at B because of this sentence before it. Problem 12. Exception. An exception problem asks you to select a statement that includes information not in the passage. According to the passage, all of the following characteristics describe producers except A. Producers serve as foods for consumers. B. Producers make their own food. C. Producers from the first trophic level. D. Producers include bacteria and fungi. The reason is that the answer is D is because organisms that are capable of using carbon dioxide as the sole source of carbon are called autotrophs, or self-feeders, or producers. These are the plants. They chemically fix carbon through photosynthesis. And all of these sentences are in paragraph 1, so we can conclude that D is the exception. Problem 13. Classification. A classification problem asks you to match phrases with the category to which they refer. Choose phrases for 2 or 3 categories. Directions. Complete the table by matching the phrases on the left with the headings on the right. Select the appropriate answer choice and direct them to the type of organism to which they relate. 2 of the answer choices will not be used. A. Depend upon photosynthesis to survive. Producers. B. Has a weak interaction among species. C. Generally consists of animal life forms. Consumers. D. Include both herbivores and carnivores. Consumers. D. E. From the last link in the food chains. Decomposers. F. Eat meat as one of its sources, primary food sources. Consumers. G. Feed on dead plants and animals. Decomposers. H. Are always some variety of plant life. Producers. I. Made exclusively of inorganic materials. The answers of this problem is in the first, second, and third paragraph. From it, I take conclusion that producers or autotrophs include primarily plants that use carbon dioxide as their sole carbon source through photosynthesis. They form the foundation of the food chain by converting the sunlight into energy, which sustain other life forms. Consumers, or heterotrophs, rely on producers for their energy. They are classified into primary consumers, which are herbivores that eat plants, and secondary consumers, which are carnivores that eat other animals. Additionally, omnivores consume both plants and animals, contributing to the complexity of food webs. Decomposers, including detritivores, like worms and bacteria, break down dead organic matters. They recycle nutrients back into the ecosystem by consuming detritus such as fallen leaves and animal remains, and releasing essential nutrients through their metabolic process. Problem 14. Summary. A summary problem asks you to complete a summary of the passage. Directions. An introduction for a short summary of the passage appear below. Complete the summary by selecting the 3 answer choices that mention the most important point in the passage. Some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that they are not included in the passage or are minor points from the passage. The food web is comprised of producers, consumers, and decomposers, which interact in endless cycle. The answer is A. Consumers, primarily animals, feed on producers, plants, which manufacture their own food source through the photosynthesis. B. Decomposers digest, recycle dead plants and animals, releasing inorganic compounds into the food chain. C. Since more energy is depleted into the environment at each level in the food chain, dietary choices affect the efficiency of food webs. The reason that this is the answer is because A. This sentence is true because it's a summarization of the first paragraph. B. The sentence correlates with the third paragraph as decomposers are primarily bacteria and fungi that digest organic debris outside their bodies and absorb and release nutrition in the process. This metabolic work of microbial decomposers produce the rotting that breaks down detritus. Detritus feeders and decomposers, although different in operation, have similar functions in an ecosystem. See, this is true because in the second essay, it is said that the process of food chains from producers to consumers, 810 kilograms of grain are spent on 82 kilograms of meat. The essay doesn't focus on just omnivore, it also focuses on other like carnivores, herbivores, and producers. So putting it on the summary is not possible because it's just a minor point. E. This sentence is about the example of an undersea food web. Usually an example is put in the material, not on the summary. F. The sentence is not fully true. The rainforests that are being cut down for cattle farming are not just exported to be served on fast food restaurants. It also to be served on other fine dining restaurants.
Reading strategies. The first one is preview. It helps understand the text quickly by looking at the title, headings, bold or italic words, and the first and last sentence of each paragraph. Next, reading faster. To read faster, focus on meaning, not word by word. Use peripheral vision to see multiple words at once. Don't stop for every unknown word. If you understand the sentence, keep going. Next, use context. Understanding the general meaning of a sentence helps in understanding unfamiliar words. Context helps in making predictions about word meanings without using a dictionary. It is important for TOEFL, as dictionaries are not allowed. With use context, you can learn basic vocabulary and understand new words through context. Next, make inference. Sometimes facts are not directly stated. Use evidence in the passage to make logical conclusions. Example, if a passage mentions that Native Americans use buffalo for food and clothing, you can infer that buffalo was important in their culture. Next, skim and scan. Skimming is reading quickly to get the general idea. And scanning is looking for specific details or answers. The both useful in TOEFL to find references and key information. And next, make connection. Relate information in the passage to previous ideas. In TOEFL, some questions require inserting sentence in the correct place.
Reading strategies. Summarize. A summary includes only the main idea and the major points in a passage. Also, a passage may contain many points, only the most important are included in a summary. In English, many writers tend to use a formula with one main idea and three major points. It is customary to find between 2 and 4 major points in a short passage. When you are reading content material in the textbooks or in examinations, pause at the end of a section to summarize. First, reread the title or the section heading. State the main idea, then summarize the major points from the sections. You can summarize by speaking or writing. The last question on the TOEFL is often a summary of the entire passage. Applying the academic skills to the TOEFL. Taking notes. For some people, taking notes while they read the passage is a good strategy. For other people, it is not a good use of the time. They prefer to read once to get a general idea of the passage and then to go back and scan for each question. The way that you use your time is a very personal choice. Paraphrasing. This is the most important academic skills for the reading section. Many of the question and answers choices are paraphrase of information from the passage. Your ability to recognize paraphrase will be essential for you to score well on this section. Summarizing. The last question for every reading passage will require you to summarize the passage either by classifying information or by distinguishing between major points and minor points. Your skill in summarizing will be important because the last question is worth more points than the other questions. Synthesizing. This important skill is tested in other sections of the TOEFL.
Move to the second topic, we're going to explore the listening section. Overview of the listening section. Listening test designed to assess comprehension of spoken English. In this section, you will listen to conversations and lectures and then answer questions related to what you heard. There are two formats of listening, the short format and the long format. Of whole passage, only 2 conversations and 4 lectures will be graded, but you will know which will be graded. The listening section is structured into sets, with each set containing 1 conversation and 2 lectures. You will have 20 to 30 minutes amount of time to answer the questions depending on listening format. A clock on the screen will show you the remaining time for answering, and not count the time you are listening to the conversations and lectures. You will hear each audio passage only once. While listening, you are allowed to take notes to help you when answering. After listening to each passage, you will be presented with 5 to 6 multiple choice questions. And you cannot return to questions you have already answered. Review of problems. Prompts. A prompt for the listening section will feature 2 main types of audio material, such as conversations on a college campus or part of lecture in a college classroom on one of the natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, or arts. Each of these audio recordings will be between 3 and 6 minutes long. During the actual TOEFL IBT test takers will not see the full text of the conversations or lectures, but will only see the questions they are asked to answer while listening.
Problem 15. Purpose. A purpose problem asks to explain why the speakers are having a conversation or why the professor is presenting the material in a lecture. In the problem example, the question is, why does the man want to talk with the woman? The right answer is C, to clarify his understanding of the review session. It is because in the man's second dialogue, the man asked the woman if she understood the review session for the next Monday from the professor. The next problem is detail. A detailed problem asks to answer the question about a specific point in the conversation or lecture. The right answer is C, because as we could take from the dialogue of the woman, that the review session will give them the idea of how the test would be. And the next problem is inference. An inference problem asks to draw a conclusion based on information in the conversation or lecture. In the problem example, the correct answer is B, because the woman convinces him that it is a good idea. This is because, through the entire conversation, the woman gets the benefit for following the review session. And next problem is pragmatics. A pragmatics problem asks to comprehend the function of language on a level deeper than the surface meaning. We may need to understand the purpose or motivation of the speaker, or need to interpret the speaker's attitude or doubt about something in the conversation or lecture. Listen to a reply of the sentence or sentence that must interpret. In the problem examples, the correct answer is A. He thinks that the professor will notice if a student is absent. The reason is in the dialogue. The man seemed to show doubt if he doesn't attend the lecture.
Problem 19, main idea. The answer is the first option because it summarizes the overall lecture. Main idea question require the broad, most inclusive answer that reflects the entire content, not just examples or specific points. The reason is the main idea question asks what the entire lecture is primarily about, not just specific details. Problem 20, organization. The answer is the first option because it best reflects how the professor organized the lecture by using specimens to demonstrate and explain the concept of mimicry. These approaches help the audience visual the information, which is essential in scientific explanation. The reason is by showing specimens, the professor provides visual evidence or real-world examples, which is helps reinforce the concepts discussed, such as mimicry among insects. Problem 21, details. The answer is a full odor, a bad taste, and a drab color. The reason is a model in biological mimicry typically refers to an organism with noticeable defensive traits that predators avoid.
Problem 22. Technique. A technique problem asks you to identify the way that a professor makes a point, for example, by comparing, providing a definition, and giving an example. Choose from four possible answers. How does the professor explain Bayesian mimicry? A. By giving a precise definition. B. By providing several examples. C. By referring to the textbooks. D. By contrasting with another hypothesis. The answer is B, because in the second paragraph of the listening, the professor gives us some example to explain mimicry. Problem 23. Yes or no. A yes or no problem asks you to decide whether a statement agree or disagree with the information in the lecture. In the lecture, the professor explains Fritz Müller hypothesis indicate whether each of the following supports the hypothesis. A. Predators avoid species of insect that have harmed them in the past by stinging or biting them. Yes. B. Predators may be killed when an entire colony of insects join force against them. False. C. Predators leave the harmless insects alone if they are part of a group that includes stinging insects. Yes. D. Predator will refrain from attacking harmless insects if they look like insects that have stung them before. Yes. E. Predators protect themselves from harmful insects by stinging or biting them before they are attacked. False. The reason: A. This statement is true. As in the essay, The insects that harm them by stinging and biting is being mimicked by other insects that doesn't have the capabilities to harm the predators. B. The statement is false as the essay doesn't tell us anything about killing the predators by the joint forces of the entire colony of insects. C. This statement is true. In the fifth paragraph, we know that the predator would leave along the ants alone if the entire ant colony attacked the predator. The predator will also even avoid those who doesn't sting or bite. D. This is true. As in the third paragraph, it is said that the predators would avoid hoverfly even though it doesn't have as much as wings as honeybee. The same thing happened to the beetles that beat its wings to mimic that of a bumblebee. E. This statement is false as the predator is not the prey. Problem 24. Connections. A connections problem asks you to relate ideas or information in the lecture. Indicate whether each insect below refers to a model or a mimic. Click in the correct box for each phrase. A. A viceroy butterfly. A mimic. As it was stated in the second paragraph, a viceroy butterfly looks a lot like a monarch butterfly. The same look makes the predator does not wish to eat it because of the monarch taste. B. A brown spider. A mimic. It was stated in the 8th paragraph that the brown spider anatomy mimic that of the ant. C. A hawk moth. A mimic. It was stated in the 4th paragraph that the hawk moth only has a bundle of hair on its hair, which is enough to make predators to think that it's a sting. D. A bumblebee. A model. The bumblebee sting is painful and occasionally fatal to the predators, which is why beetles mimic it by beating its wing to make the same sound as the bumblebee. This is in the 3rd paragraph. E. A biting ant. A model. In the 5th paragraph, the ant's main weapon is the ability to bite or sting the predators. But the main aspect of why it was avoided by predators is because of its colony. Listening strategies. There is 5 listening strategies for listening. The first one is get organized. Adjust volume first. Before starting the listening section, adjust your headset volume. After the test begins, you may not be able to change it. Second is prepare to listen. Stay focused and ready to hear the introduction of the first listening passage. Second, preview. Pay attention to introductions. The narrator's introduction gives crucial context, such as whether you are about to listen to a lecture or conversation and its topic. Glance at the photo. Use visuals to prepare your mind for the content. Third, use visuals. Focus on content visuals. While photographs of people provide orientation, concentrate on other visuals like maps and charts that support the audio content. Practice selective attention. Briefly glance at images of people, but prioritize the relevant visuals that may appear in questions. Fourth, read screen text. Read questions carefully. During the questions, pay attention to both the audio and the text displayed on the screen. Develop a rhythm. Use practice tests to find a comfortable rhythm for interacting with the screen. Lastly, understand campus context. Learn campus vocabulary. Familiarize yourself with commonly used campus terms that will help you understand conversations between students and faculty. Study pragmatic cues. Recognize cues that indicate a speaker's attitude or the nature of information being conveyed, e.g., facts versus opinion. Why is active listening important? Active listening improves communication, builds trust, and strengthens relationships by showing respect and empathy. It also helps resolve conflicts by understanding both sides and finding better solutions. The power of empathy listening. Empathy means understanding and sharing another person's feelings. It shows that you care about the speaker's thoughts and emotions, helping to build stronger, more supportive relationships. Listening in personal relationships. 1. Understanding. Better understanding of each other's feelings and needs. 2. Stronger emotional connections.
It shows you the value of the person's thoughts. Conflict resolution, as the last, understanding the other person's perspective, help resolve issues. Listening in professional settings. In professional settings, you will need to have collaborations, which team members communicate and work together more effectively. 2. Leadership. Leaders who listen well are trusted and respected. And lastly, problem solving. Listening to all ideas help find better solutions. Common barriers to listening. Distractions like phones, noise, or multitasking can interfere with listening, as can prejudice or biases that lead to judging someone's opinion before they finish. Emotional reactions may also cloud your judgment. The solution is to be mindful of these barriers and consciously focus on the speaker. Conclusion and final tips. Being a better listener improves communication, strengthens relationships, and resolve conflicts. To practice active listening, focus on the speaker, avoid distractions, use empathy to understand the feelings, and ask questions to show understanding.
Now for the third topic, we're gonna talk about speaking.
Overview of the speaking section. The speaking section tests your ability to communicate in English in an academic setting. During the test, you will be presented with 6 speaking questions. The questions ask for a response to a single question, a conversation, a talk, or a lecture. You may take notes as you listen, but notes are not graded. You may use your notes to answer the questions. Some of the questions ask for a response to a reading passage and a talk or a lecture. The reading passage and the questions are written, but the directions will be spoken. Problem 25. Experience. Task overview. Speaking about personal experience. In this exercise, you will discuss a personal experience, which could involve a place, a person, possessions, or occasion. You will prepare your response and then explain your choice. Preparation details. You will have 15 seconds for preparation time and 45 seconds for speaking. Specific tasks. You will describe your experience by sharing details about the experience you chose and explain the reasons for your choice to justify why this experience is significant to you. Example question. Where would you like to study in the United States? Example notes. Location chosen, Washington DC. For family in the area, for advice and help. Opportunities for international food and stores. Tours to sites and connections to the other cities, excellent universities in the areas. Reason for choice. Having a family nearby provides support and guidance. Previous visits to have made you fond of the city. Diverse culture and experience and food options. Access to train service for travel to neighboring states. Checklist for effective speaking. 1. Address the topic clearly. 2. Ensure the point of view is easily understood. 3. Structure your speech logically. 4. Use complete sentence to convey ideas. 5. Support your main idea with specific details and examples. Problem 26. Preference. Task overview. Choose between 2 options and explain the reason for your preference. Example questions. Some students live in dormitories on campus. Other students live in apartments off campus. Which living situation do you think is better and why? Example notes, choice and reasons. 1. Dormitories have more interaction and opportunities to practice English and study. Less responsibility. For example, meals, laundry, cleaning are often included in dormitories. Lastly, better location. It is closer proximity to the library, recreation, and classroom buildings. Example of answer. 1. The speaker prefers living at dormitory, especially for new students. Second, dormitories encourage interaction with other residents, beneficial for foreign students. And last, they provide a structured environment with resources for meals and laundry, making it easier for students to focus on academics. Problem 27. Reports. In question 3, you will be asked to read a short passage and listen to a speaker on the same topic. The topic usually involves a campus situation and the speaker's opinions about it. After you hear the questions, you will be asked to report the speaker's opinion and relate it to the reading passage. You will have 45 seconds to read the passage. After you have listened to the talk, You will have 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to speak. Task: summarize the situation and an opinion about it. Explain the reason for the background, and connect listening and reading passage. Reading 45 seconds. Announcement concerning a proposal for a branch campus. The university is soliciting state and local funding to build a branch campus on the west side of the city, where the 1 to 19 expressway across the 201 loop. This location shall provide convenient educational opportunities for students who live closer to the new campus, as well as for those students who may choose to live on the west side once the campus is established. The city plan for the next 10 years indicates that there will be a major growth near the proposed site, including housing and shopping area. By building a branch campus, some of the crowding on the main campus may be resolved. Problem 27, Talk City 1, Track 6. I understand that a branch campus on the city west side would be convenient for students who live near the proposed site, and it might attract more local students. But I oppose the plan because it will redirect funds from the main campus, where several classrooms building need repair. Hanover Hall, for one, and a lot of the equipment in the chemistry and physics labs should be replaced. In my lab classes, we don't do some of the experience because, we just don't have enough equipment, and we need more teachers on the main campus. I'd like to see the branch campus funding allocated for teacher salaries in order to decrease the student-teachers ratios. Most of the freshman classes are huge, and there's a very little interaction with professors. A branch campus would be a good addition, but not until some of the problems on the main campus have been addressed. Example notes. Situation on opinion. 1. Plans to open a branch campus. It's convenient for students near the campus, might attract more students, and relieve crowding on the main campus. Second, but will redirect funds from the main campus. Buildings in the main campus need repairs. Equipment should be replaced, and more teachers needed, and smaller classes. Problem 27, example questions, CD1, track 6 continues. The man expressed his opinion of the proposal in the announcement, report his opinion, and explain the reasons he gives for having that opinion. The man concedes that the branch campus might be advantage for the students living close to the new locations, but is concerned that the funding for a branch campus will divert funding on main campuses for important capital improvements, such as classroom buildings that are in need of repair, and equipment in the science labs is getting old, so it needs to be replaced. And he also points out that more teachers are needed for the main campus in order to reduce students-teachers ratios, which affects the amount of interactions in classes. So the man feels that more attention should be given to the main campus, and funding should be directed to improve the main campus before a branch campus is considered. Problem 28. Examples. You will be asked to listen to a speaker and read a short passage on the same topic. The topic usually involves a general concept and a specific example of it. Sometimes the speaker provides a contradictory point of view. After you hear the question, you will be asked to explain the example and relate it to the concept or contrast of the opposing views. You will have 45 seconds to read the passage. After you have listened to the talk, you will have 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to speak. The task: explain how an example supports a concept or contrasts one view with another view, and connect listening and reading passages. In the reading section, the paragraph shows the development of grammar in children's speech. In the listening section, the paragraph explains that in English there is a dozen words to explain grammatical meaning and when do children learn them. Example of the answer: in English, there are several word endings that explain grammatical meaning, such as ed for past, ing for present, and s for plural. As the children learn English, they make some grammatical errors in these endings, but gradually, as they age, they perfect it and master these grammar endings. Problem 29. Problems. You will be asked to listen to a conversation and explain a problem as well as the solutions that are proposed. After you have listened to the conversation, you will have 20 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to speak. The task: describe a problem and several recommendations, and express an opinion about the better solution or propose an alternative solution.
The examples question from problem 29. Budgeting problem is pay tuition and her dorm fee, buy books, and her scholarship check will not arrive until the end of the month. Two suggestions from the man is take out of student loan and support student loan option. Overall, the woman should take out a student loan as it provides an immediate financial solution. Ensure she can pay her thing. Since the loan amount is small, repayment should be manageable once her scholarship check arrives. Problem 30, summarize. I will give you an answer about a task that is flood irrigation is a cost-effective but inefficient method, but suited for areas where water is abundant. In contrast, sprinkle systems provide better water control and efficiency but come with higher installation and maintenance costs. The choice between the two depends on water availability, land conditions, and budget constraints. Speaking strategies. Effective speaking requires clarity, organization, appropriate pacing, and supporting examples. Practicing strategies will improve confidence and communication skills. You can see the examples. 1. My favorite teacher is Mr. Anderson. The reason is he always made learning fun. And the others.
The next speaking strategies is support your answer. It is important to provide examples or reasons to support your answer. A useful habit is like use the word because after stating your opinion and give 2 or 3 examples or reasons. Next, understand the text. It is essential to listen carefully to the question to understand how to organize your answer. If asked to state an opinion, focus on one side. It required to discuss both sides and take a stand. The structure of your answer will be different. And next, pronouns to communicate. The important point is that your accent is okay as long as the listener can understand you. It is good to try to improve your pronunciation. And next, sound confident. Try to speak up and sound assertive without being aggressive. It helps to start with a smile on your face. And next, read 135 words per minute. The case is time yourself and increase speed to 135. Adapt notes. Use a system for taking notes and adapt the format for each question. Next, pace yourself. It can start with a direct statement. Next, make a few major points and set a timer. And the last speaking strategies is prepare key phrases. Some key phrases are useful for each of the problems in the speaking section. Several common question types, including number 1, experience. It is how to express personal experience or favorites. And number 2, preference. How to state preference and provide reasons. Number 3, reports. How to express support or opposition to an opinion. Number 4, examples. How to give examples based on readings or lectures. Number 5, problems. How to identify problems and suggest solution. And the last, summarize. How to summarize information, including definition, description, classification, chronology, comparison, cause and effect, and problem solving.
The next speaking strategy is use verbal pause. It's better to use verbal pauses instead of stopping and thinking in silently. You can use some verbal pauses but not to overuse them. Otherwise, it can distract the listener and you won't have enough time to answer the question completely. Correct yourself. Always correct slips in content, grammar, and word choice quickly and move along without interrupting the flow of your speech. You can use some commonly phrases to correct a previous grammatical slip. Speak to the criteria for evaluation. Use the checklist for each question on the speaking section to evaluate your speaking, or get some extra help if you do not know how to use the checklist. Stay positive. Take some deep breaths before answering each question. As you inhale, feel the confidence. Say positive affirmation in your mind. Focus on listening to the questions and then delivering your response. Applying the academic skills to the TOEFL. Taking notes. Notes are useful for organizing your talk and can be referred to while you are speaking. Paraphrasing. Skill in identifying paraphrases be beneficial when selecting your answers while speaking. Summarizing. You will be speaking a minute or less in response to each question. You must be brief while covering all key points. This requires effective summarization. Synthesizing. Integrate and accurate information from reading and listening by synthesizing is necessary to obtain a high score on the speaking. Entering the fourth section. This time, we will explain about writing.
Overview of the writing section. The writing section tests your ability to write essays in English, similar to those that you would write in a college course. During the test, you will write 2 essays. Problem 31. Synthesis of the opposing ideas. In these integrated essay questions, you will be asked to read a short passage from a textbook and then listen to part of a lecture about the same topic. The ideas in the textbooks and the lecture may contradict each other. In your response, you will synthesize information from both the reading and the lecture. Task: you will have 20 minutes to plan, write, and revise your essay. Typically, a good response will require you to write 150 to 225 words. Instructions: 1. Read a short passage and take notes. 2. Listen to a short lecture and take notes. And 3. Answer a question using information from both the reading and the lecture. Reading passage time: 3 minutes. In his classic The Interpretation of Dreams, published in 1900, Sigmund Freud identified the unconscious as the origin of many dreams. For instance, a student who is anxious about taking an important exam may dream about the test, or, more likely, some type of symbol for the exam will appear in a dream. Since thoughts must be translated into concrete image, dreams are expressed in pictures rather than words. Freud advanced the notion of dream symbols, which are images with deep personal meaning. In the case of the exam, it might be expressed as a specific object or a scenario. According to Freud, dreams represent wishes that are forbidden or repressed in some way, and they offer a compromise, acting as a means for the wish to be expressed safely. Reading passage time: 3 minutes. In his classic The Interpretation of Dreams, published in 1900, Sigmund Freud identified the unconscious as the origin of many dreams. For instance, a student who is anxious about taking an important exam may dream about the test, or, more likely, some type of symbol for the exam will appear in a dream. Since thoughts must be translated into concrete image, dreams are expressed in pictures rather than words. Freud advanced the notion of dream symbols, which are images with deep personal meaning. In the case of the exam, it might be expressed as a specific object or a scenario. According to Freud, dreams represent wishes that are forbidden or repressed in some way, and they offer a compromise, acting as a means for the wish to be expressed safely. Reading passage notes: Freud 1900 interpret dreams. 1. Wish fulfillments. 2. Symbols in dream. And last, dreams as obstacles. For example, student as a dream or symbol. Pictures or words equals D, and symbols in dreams and exam equals as obstacle in a race. D equals to daydreams, which is a wish repressed. save expressions, and reveal unconscious.
We start from problem 32, synthesis of supporting ideas. What is the key point of nebular hypothesis? We know that the solar system formed due to the collapse of a nebular cloud, with gravity and rapid spinning shaping its structure. The planets and other celestial bodies develop based on their distance from the sun and surrounding conditions. Notes of computer model. Computer model confirm that stars form through that interstellar clouds collapse under gravity, forming stars and circumstellar nebulae that support planets formation. The simulation confirmed that planetary systems are widespread and suggests some planets may support life, encouraging further exploration. Integrated essay is a type of writing that combines information from multiple sources, such as a reading passage and a lecture. It is commonly found in academic settings and standardized tests like the TOEFL. The purpose is to analyze, compare, and summarize information while demonstrating comprehension and critical thinking. And the summarize about nebular hypothesis and computer models is support the nebular hypothesis, showing that stars and planets form through the same natural process. This suggests that planetary systems are common, increasing the possibility of finding life-sustaining planets. And the problem 33 about opinion. Opinion, or that can be independent essay, is a type of academic writing where the writer expresses their own opinion on a given topic. And the key tips is 1. Be clear about your opinion. 2. Use specific examples. 3. Maintain logical flow between ideas. 4. Manage your time.
Argue one side, advantage and disadvantage. Argue the other side, advantage and disadvantage. Take a stand for one of the arguments and explain the reasons for your preference. Example questions. Some students like to take distance learning courses by computer. Other students prefer to study in a traditional classroom setting with a teacher. Consider the advantage of both options and make an argument for the way that students should organize their schedules. You could note the essay with advantage distance. 1. Attend class at your convenience. 2. Complete assignments at your own pace. 3. Allow the repeat of lectures. And the advantage of traditional: 1. Structured environment. 2. More personal relationships. 3. Immediate response to questions. And 4. Study groups and friendships. In writing, you will most likely to write an integrated essay and independent essay. Each has its own strategies, which we will discuss each by each. Now let's start with the integrated essay. The integrated question asks for a synthesis of the content in a lecture and a reading passage. It is usually the first essay question. The first writing strategies for integrated essay is report. When you are writing about content, it is important not to offer your opinions. To do this, you must distinguish between content and opinion. Content may include both facts and ideas of the author or lecturer. Opinion is what you think. Your job in an integrated essay is to report the facts and ideas without making judgment and without expressing your opinions.
Identify sources. In the question for integrated essay, you will be directed to the primary source. It may ask you to summarize the reading or lecture. You will be asked to support or contrast the information in the primary source with the information in the secondary source. Be sure to include information from both sources. Make connections. Establish the relationship between sources. Is it support or contrast? Choose appropriate transitions. You can use supporting transitions when the secondary source agrees with the primary source, and use opposing transitions when the secondary source disagrees with the primary source. Include a variety of structures. Vary sentence structures by combining simple sentences to be more interesting. Edit your writing. Reread your essay to see if there are any mistakes and correct them before the essay is submitted. Independent essay. The independent question on the TOEFL test asks for your opinion. It is usually the second essay question. Writing strategies for independent essay. Respond to the topic. Analyze the topic asked in the question. You must write according to the topic so that your essay will be scored. Be direct. Start with an introductory phrase or clause. You can use the following example. Then, make a direct statement of opinion using subject plus verb. Concede the opposing view has merit. You can begin with a concession clause and make a direct statement of opinion. Here is the example. Use an outline sentence. It's to outline the first sentence so that becomes more detailed and clear for the reader. Here is the example.
Next is think in English. According to research by Robert Kaplan, they organize their thought in a linear pattern. This means that they think in a straight line. Detail and examples must relate to the main points. Digression are not included. Connect each idea with the next. Next, write a strong conclusion. A strong conclusion is more like a summary of the ideas in one last sentence. Applying the academic skill to the TOEFL. Taking notes. Taking note is an important academic skill for the writing section because you will use them to organize your essay. Paraphrasing. In the integrated essay, you must be careful not to use the exact word from the reading or the lecture. Plagiarizing will result in a failing score on the essay. Summarizing. You will often be asked to summarize the primary source before you relate it to the secondary source. And the last, synthesizing. Part 1 of the writing section is the integrated essay. It is a synthesis of information from a reading passage and a lecture. Synthesizing is the most important academic skill for the integrated essay. How to improve TOEFL writing skills? There are some tips. First, study plan. You must to prepare a study plan to be more focused in study. Second, extra credit. It can become familiar with the independent writing topics and read good examples of expository writing. And next, option for evaluation. You need to know how your progress in study.
To end this presentation, we will discuss about some academic skills.
Alright, we will start from taking notes. Taking notes involves in writing down information while you listen or read. There are 3 challenges you may encounter when taking notes. The first one, the professor controls the speed of the lecture, which means you need to take notes as quickly as they speak. Second, your notes must capture all the key ideas and major facts, requiring you to recognize important information as you hear it or read it. And last, notes might be used in different ways, so you must know how to organize them to help you remember, to supplement information from another assignment, or to plan a speech or essay. This chapter will assist you in enhancing your note-taking skills. You will learn how to 1. Organize your notes, 2. Identify important information, and 3. Take notes quickly. How will these strategies benefit you in the TOEFL? By improving your note-taking during lectures, you will be better prepared to respond to listening comprehension questions and to tackle speaking and writing prompts. This will also enhance your overall understanding. Mastering excellent note-taking is crucial for success on the TOEFL and beyond when you enroll in a college or university. The first strategy is organize your notes. Anticipate the purpose. If you can foresee the purpose of a reading or a lecture, you will be better equipped to prepare your mind to absorb the information, and you will also have a clearer understanding of how to organize your notes. Divide the paper into columns. First, there are various methods for taking notes in columns. This technique is straightforward and effective. Second, draw a vertical line on your note paper from the top to the bottom, approximately 2 inches from the left margin, as illustrated on the next page. 3. This system is known as two-column notes. While taking notes, write the topics or main ideas in the left column and include details and examples in the right column. And the last, this approach allows you to take notes more efficiently, and you don't need to determine the main ideas and details through lengthy written explanations or complex outlines. Separate the major and minor points. To effectively use two columns for notes, you need to categorize the ideas into major and minor points. Typically, there are 3 or 4 major points in a brief lecture or reading passage. Each major point is supported by examples and details, which are considered minor points. Second strategy is identify important information. Pay attention to keywords. Keywords help you identify important information in a textbook or a lecture. Certain keywords are more frequently found in a reading passage or a lecture that has a specific purpose. Notice cues in speech and writing. Importance of cues. Sometimes professors will highlight important points during the lectures. Key phrase to listen for. First, pay particular attention to. Be sure to, especially important is, and this is important, and this is the key point. Written cues. Cues will also appear in textbooks. Look for headings, bold letters, and italics. The third strategy is take notes quickly. Know what to ignore. Professor may use verbal pause like and Common filler words include now, so, okay, and well. Repetition or restatement may occur to clarify points, but can often be ignored. In the restatement, the professor might rephrase the same idea, which may not add new meaning. Use abbreviations and symbols. Use abbreviation for important words and phrases that are repeated. There are 2 ways to do this. First, capital letters. You can use capital letters that will remind you of the word or phrase. For example, in a lecture about colonial America, you might use C as an abbreviation for the phrase. In a lecture about the philosophy of John Dewey, you could use D as an abbreviation for the name. Second, initial letters. Alternatively, you could write the beginning of the word or phrase. For colonial America, you could write col. Academic skills. For John Dewey, you could use G. Dew. And the abbreviation can be anything that will remind you of the word or phrase when you are reading your notes. Draw relationships. To take notes, you can use symbols and diagrams. By using this system, you can reduce the number of words that you have to write. Definitions. Definitions are part of every academic subject because the vocabulary must be introduced in order to understand and learn new concepts. Definitions often appear in italic or bold print in textbooks. Many textbooks have a glossary of specialized vocabulary in the back of the book. Look at these examples of definition and notice the diagrams that shows the relationship between the word and the definitions. A menu is a list of computer functions that appears on the screen. Menu equals as list of functions on screens. The ID consists of instincts. ID equals instincts. Sequence is often found in narratives of historical events, descriptions of research studies, and in directive for scientific experiments or process. The Roman Empire was built in 3 stages: the conquest of Italy, the conflict with the Carthage, and expansion into the Western Mediterranean, and finally, the domination of the Greek kingdoms and the Eastern Mediterranean. You could take notes that the Roman Empire, conquest of Italy, conflict with the Carthage, and expansion into the Western Mediterranean, and lastly, domination of the Greek kingdoms and the Eastern Mediterranean. The history of Cubism is divided into 3 phases. The Cézanne phase, which lasted only 2 years from 1907 to 1909, followed by the analytical phase from the 1910 to 1912, which, by the way, was the phase in which the most abstract purification of the form was realized, and finally the synthetic phase, beginning in the 1913. You could note that Cubism, Cézanne phase, 1907 to 1909, analytical phase, 1910 and until 1912, abstract purification, and scientific.
Preperation. Preparation means using different words to express the same meaning. Express an idea that you have heard or read, but you say or read it in your own words. There are three problems that you will confront when you are paraphrasing. Number one, there is a natural tendency to repeat the same words instead of paraphrasing them. Number two, reference material such as a thesaurus may not be used on the TOEFL. And number three, sometimes it is not possible to think of a paraphrase. How to improve the paraphrase skill? It can with the first one, choose synonyms for word and phrases. There are many tips. Number one, substitute multiple synonyms. A good paraphrase requires replacing more than one word or phrase. Additionally, it should use a different grammatical structure. Simply changing one word is not enough to create an acceptable paraphrase. Next, use phrase. Instead of replacing only one word, using phrases can be a more effective alternative. The English language has many phrasal verbs that can replace single word verbs. Generally, phrasal verbs are used in informal contexts, while single word verbs are favored in formal writing and speech. Next, make an explanation. When forgetting a word while paraphrasing, providing an explanation can be helpful. If an adjective is forgotten, the opposite adjective with not can be used. Example, not small instead of large. If a verb is forgotten, a more general verb can be used as a substitute. Example, use instead of rely on. If a noun is forgotten, it can be described with a descriptive phrase. For example, a person who engages in agriculture instead of farmer. These strategies are mainly useful in spoken language to avoid interruption in communication. The tips is adjectives use an opposite, nouns use a phrase, and verbs use a general verb. Second, use alternative grammatical structure. The number one tips is produce restatements. Recognizing alternative structure improves paraphrasing skills. A true paraphrase requires both synonyms and alternative structures. The practical strategy can with study restatement examples to learn alternative structures. Focus on structure first before incorporating synonyms. Next, read and listen for meaning. Understanding ideas is more important than individual words or grammar. The practical strategy, practical reading and listening for meaning by focusing on sentence or even paragraphs. You will train your mind to make connections and comprehend the ideas instead of trying to understand word by word. The important question is this: what does the author or the lecturer mean, and what ideas are being expressed?
And how to paraphrase well? You can follow this key principle. 1. Keep all key details intact. That means maintain the original meaning without omitting important information. 2. Avoid using the same words and sentence structure. That means rewrite the sentence completely instead of just replacing words with synonyms. And the last, express the idea in a fresh and original way. That means understand the text and rewrite it in your own words for uniqueness. And how to use sources effectively? You can always answer this and properly mark quotes, use strong verbs for clarity, and cite sources correctly. The strategies enhance credibility and avoid plagiarism. Do you know what is summarizing? Summarizing is condensing a text by keeping its main ideas while removing unnecessary details. A good summary is clear and maintains the original. When you summarize, you're bound to find problems. Like a summary doesn't include everything in the original. That means it doesn't include every details from the original text, only the key points. And then supporting details are excluded. That means example and extra details are usually left out to keep the summary concise. And the last, the author perspective stays the same. That means a summary should not include personal opinions or change the original meaning.
Strategies to identify the main points. Find a topic sentence. A topic sentence is a very general statement that includes the subject of the reading or lecture and the way topic will be developed. The first sentence in a summary should be a direct statement which gives a general idea of the topic. You can paraphrase a topic sentence or create it yourself. Identify the major points. A major point is almost always directly stated, has examples and details that refer to it, and found at the beginning of a new paragraph. Inferences and conclusions or examples and details are not major points. Identify the minor points. A minor point can be an example or a detail that supports a major point, or a point that is not very well developed. Minor points are usually not included in a summary. Strategies to report the information. Use the same organization as the original. The summary should maintain the same organization as the original reading or lecture, without changing the order. Determine the organization of the content, then list the major point to give you an outline for the summary. Report the content accurately. Read or listen, then review the content and ask some basic questions. The content may not include answers to all of the questions, but it will help you to identify the questions that are important to the content. Retain the original emphasis. The emphasis in summary should be the same as the original. When you read, think in how much space does the author devote to each point. And when you listen, think in how much time does the speaker devote to each point. You will know how much emphasis to give to the points in your summary. Maintain an objective point of view. An objective point of view is in a natural position. A summary is not an analysis or a commentary and doesn't invite an opinion. In your summary, you shouldn't make judgments or add information. The conclusion should be the author's or the speaker's conclusion, not yours. Check the summary. Reread to check the summary and keep a short checklist for summaries. If you know how the summary will be evaluated, use the same criteria to check.
Synthesizing. Synthesizing means to combine two or more sources in order to create something new. There are three problems in synthesizing. 1. The relationship between the sources may not be obvious. This means that you may have to figure out the connections. 2. One source appears to contain all of the necessary information. This means that you need to be sure to balance the information so that all of the sources are used. 3. Synthesis required a high level of thinking. This means that you should have a plan in order to create a synthesis. To improve your synthesizing, you will need to learn 1. Identify the themes and connections. 2. Select information from both sources. And last, identify themes and connections. 1. Identify the primary source. You need to at least have two sources for synthesis. The primary source, which presents the major points, and the secondary, which provides the additional information. Practical strategy. Read carefully to determine which source you are being asked to use as your primary source. It usually, but not always, mentioned on first. Second, analyze the task. The wording of the question or the assignment will direct your thinking. Some words and phrases that refer to the secondary source demonstrate agreement and extension, but other words and phrases show disagreement and contrast. Occasionally, neutral words are used. It is important to understand the meaning of these words and phrases in order to analyze the task. The way that you relate the secondary source to the primary source depends on these words. Practical strategy. Start your thinking by categorizing words in the question or assignment as extensions words or contrast words. Third, clarify the relationships. The relationship between the primary source and the secondary source is usually more specific than an extension or contrast. Some of the most common relationships are listed in the chart on the next list. Practical strategy. Using the chart on the next slide to help you determine the specific relationships between the primary source and the secondary source. Here is the listed chart that you could see. Fourth, get organized. Use the skills that you have already learned to get organized before you begin your synthesis. Practical strategy. First, read the directions for your assignment or the questions for your test. Ask yourself these questions. 1. What is the primary source? 2. What is the secondary source? 3. What is the task, extension, or contrast? 4th, what is the specific relationship between the primary and the secondary source? Select information. The first one is to summarize the primary source. You will often be asked to summarize the main points in the primary source and then relate to the secondary source. Even if you are not asked to summarize the primary source, you should still begin by using your notes from the primary source. Practical strategy. After you have taken notes on both sources, direct your attention to the notes for the primary source. If the direction for your assignment or the question for your test instruct you to summarize the primary source, begin with a summary using your notes. Second, use transition sentences. Transition sentences are very useful in a synthesis. They can be used to connect information from the primary source with information from the secondary source. Transition sentences show the specific relationship between the sources. Practical strategy. Learning some patterns from forming transitional sentence can be helpful. Third, include the secondary source. A synthesis is not complete unless information from the secondary source is included. Practical strategy. Proofread your synthesis. Look for information from both the primary source and the secondary source. Follow a plan. First, memorize the procedure. In order to accomplish a complex text, it helps to have a procedures. The first step in using a new procedure is putting the steps in order and learning them. Practical strategy. Tell yourself what you are going to do to create a synthesis of two sources. Read the following steps until you can recite them without looking at this page. Read the assignment or test question. 1. Identify the primary source. 2. Identify the secondary source. 3. Decide whether the task is extension or contrast. 4. Determine the specific relationship between the primary and secondary source. Read the passage and take notes. Listen to the lecture and take notes. Plan and write synthesis. 5. Summarize the primary source. 6. Create a transition sentence to connect the primary source with the secondary source. 7. Summarize the secondary source while making reference to the primary source. Second, work within the time limit. If you are synthesizing for an assignment that is due in several weeks, you will have plenty of time to think, write, and revise. But if you are synthesizing information for a test question, you will have to work within time limits, and you need to understand what those limits are. Practical strategy. The procedure is listed again, but this time the time limits are shown. Pay attention to the timing when you practice using the procedure. Read the assignment or test questions. 10 seconds. 1. Identify the primary source. 2. Identify the secondary source. 3. Decide whether the task is extension or contrast. 4. Determine the specific relationship between the primary and secondary source. Read the passage and take notes. 3 minutes. Listen to the lecture and take notes. 3 to 5 minutes. Plan and write a synthesis. 20 minutes. 5. Summarize the primary source. 6. Create a transition sentence to connect the primary source with the secondary source. 7. Summarize the secondary source while making references to the primary source. Lastly, practice using the procedure. For a plan to be useful, you need to practice using it. With a little practice, the procedure will be very natural to you. With a lot of practice, it will become automatic. Practical strategy. Continue using the procedure to gain competence and confidence.
That's all we can share about what is inside of the TOEFL test and academic skills. Hopefully it can provide insights and benefits for all of us. And thank you for watching, everyone.